Princeton, New Jersey. July 1935, while working together at the Institute for Advanced Study, physicists Albert Einstein and Nathan Rosen published a striking idea. They concluded that the theory of relativity allows for shortcuts through these paths, known as Einstein-Rosen bridges, or more commonly, wormholes, could connect to distant points, potentially making travel to the farthest stars possible. Imagine a sheet of paper, curved around and then connected from one spot to another. That is the basic idea of a wormhole, a structure in space created by extreme bending that links to different regions. The nearest star system to Earth is 4.2 light-years away. Traveling there at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, would still take 4.2 years. A wormhole is essentially the only theoretical way to cover such distances quickly. The concept is full of promise, yet building a usable wormhole presents enormous difficulties. Scientists believe it would demand far more energy than we can currently generate. One possible solution involves exotic matter material with negative mass. We only know of matter with positive mass, so this remains theoretical. Creating a wormhole might require converting the entire mass of Jupiter into energy, an amount millions of times greater than a nuclear bomb. Most researchers agree we are a long way from developing such technology, if it is possible at all. Still, some scientists suggest these cosmic shortcuts may already exist. In 1991, researchers at Vanderbilt University proposed that the chaos of the Big Bang could have formed many wormholes billions of years ago. During that early period, space-time was expanding, contracting, and folding under extreme stress. Under the right conditions, matter could have been compressed inside its own event horizon, forming tiny wormholes roughly the size of an atom. As the universe expanded, those miniature wormholes could have stretched and grown. In theory, some might now be large enough to travel through. If wormholes formed in the earliest moments of the universe, could they explain ancient accounts of gods and visitors from the sky? Some researchers who study ancient astronaut ideas suggest that openings in space-time, or stargates, may have allowed beings to reach Earth long ago. Suffolk County, England, a remote forest near the village of Rendlesham. This site is known for one of the most detailed UFO encounters on record. Some of those involved believe the event also involved time travel. On December 26, 1980, Airman John Burroughs was on a routine security patrol at a U.S. Air Force base when he was ordered to check reports of a possible downed aircraft. While driving toward the East Gate with his supervisor, they noticed strange lights in the trees. They radioed the report, and Sergeant Jim Peniston was sent to investigate. Both men saw multicolored lights. The air felt charged, as if electricity were crackling on their skin and hair. The sensation grew stronger as they approached the tree line. At times, everything seemed to move in slow motion. Peniston later described a triangular craft about 6 to 7 feet high and black in color, resting just beyond the trees. On one side, he found markings, pictorial symbols roughly 3 feet long and 6 inches high. Expecting to see familiar military designations, he instead found unfamiliar glyphs. When he ran his hand across the surface, he experienced what he later called a mental download of binary codes, and ones that he felt compelled to write down the next day. Years later, a computer programmer ran the sequence through a translation program. The resulting message read, "Exploration of humanity continuous for planetary advance. Eyes of your eyes. Origin year 8100. The reference to the year 8100 raises a striking possibility. Were the beings not extraterrestrials from another star, but time travelers from Earth's own future? The military conducted a brief investigation and reportedly tried to keep the witnesses from the press. Both Burroughs and Peniston suffered lasting physical effects: throat and eye problems, white gums, vision issues. Doctors asked whether they had been exposed to radiation. Both men also reported recurring dreams and nightmares. Peniston later described visions of travelers from 40,000 to 50,000 years in the future whose purpose was to correct a catastrophic event. He has said he never felt the craft was extraterrestrial. In his view, the visitors were simply humans from a distant future. Could the objects seen at Rendlesham have come not from another star system, but from another point in time? Pampa, Ilusión. Chile en April 25, 1977, a las 4:15 de la mañana en Corporal. Armando Valdez was leading a 7-man military patrol in the northern desert when a lookout reported 2 bright violet lights descending and landing about 500 yards away. Valdez approached the objects. What followed remains confused and disputed. His men watched him seem to vanish into the light. He later recalled becoming disoriented and possibly losing consciousness. When he reappeared, he had 5 days of beard growth, and his watch showed a date 5 days ahead. To the rest of the patrol, only minutes had passed. Researchers later interviewed for members of the squad, as well as Valdez himself. All confirmed the basic outline of the experience. Immediately afterward, Valdez returned to his men in a state of near collapse and said, "You don't know who we are or where we come from, but we will be back soon." Chile has remained a frequent location for reported UFO activity. The government has acknowledged several significant cases in recent years. The country's geography, vast, empty deserts in the north, and sparsely populated fjords and glaciers in the south, offers many remote areas where objects could remain hidden. Some researchers suggest these empty regions could conceal underground bases. Are visitors observing humanity from remote parts of Chile, or is something more substantial drawing them there? Kingman, Arizona, May 1953. At the height of the Cold War, an unidentified object reportedly crashed in the desert. Debris was said to have been taken to a highly restricted facility, Area 51. 45 years later, in 1998, retired military engineer Bill Ohaus publicly claimed that the military had recovered not only technology but a living being, an insectoid entity he called J-Rod. According to Ohaus, J-Rod worked with researchers in a laboratory in the Papoose Mountains near Area 51, helping them understand the power systems of the recovered craft. Microbiologist Dan Burish later supported parts of the account but added a further claim. J-Rod said he was not an extraterrestrial. He claimed to have come from Earth's future in that version of events. A catastrophe in the relatively near future destroys much of humanity. The surviving population splits into 2 lines. One group lives underground and, over time, develops insect-like traits. Similar ideas appear in Hopi, Zuni, and Navajo traditions. During a transition between earlier worlds, the surface became uninhabitable, and people sought shelter underground, with beings described as ant people. Some researchers wonder whether stories of insectoid visitors could reflect humans from a distant future rather than beings from another planet. Cambridge, Massachusetts. Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Researchers there have long worked on wireless power transmission. In 2007, they succeeded in sending electricity safely across a 7-foot room without wires on. Early step toward a world in which devices could draw power continuously without charging cables. More than a century earlier, inventor Nikola Tesla had envisioned exactly that possibility and claimed to have demonstrated long-distance wireless transmission. In 1899 to 1900, at Colorado Springs, he conducted experiments with a large tower. He walked several miles away, signaled his assistant to activate the system, and observed light bulbs planted in the ground lighting up. He concluded that electrical power could be transmitted over significant distances through the earth itself. With funding from banker J.P. Morgan intended for a radio station, Tesla began building the Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island. The structure rose 187 feet above ground and extended 120 feet below. He planned a network of similar stations at key points around the globe that would relay power wirelessly and, eventually, he hoped, even between planets. When Morgan learned that Tesla intended to provide free energy rather than a commercial radio service, further funding ended. By 1908, the project was abandoned. In 1917, the tower was demolished. Tesla's ability to transmit power over miles, while modern laboratory efforts remain limited to short distances, continues to intrigue researchers. He attributed many of his ideas to sudden, vivid mental images in which inventions appeared fully formed. He claimed he could rotate, disassemble, and examine these mental models in detail before building them. Some of his key concepts, including the rotating magnetic field, arrived in such flashes. Certain researchers who explore ancient astronaut ideas suggest these episodes may have been more than imagination. They propose that Tesla was receiving information from an external source. Much as prophets in ancient texts are described as receiving visions, Tesla himself spoke of a universal store of knowledge that the human mind could access if properly tuned. In July 1899, while monitoring thunderstorms with a sensitive receiver, Tesla reported hearing rhythmic signals 3 beats in sequence that he believed might originate beyond Earth, possibly from Mars. At the time Mars made a relatively close approach, he later published an article titled "Talking with the Planets," and became convinced that intelligent signals could reach Earth. His scientific peers largely dismissed the idea, and critics used it to portray him as unstable, especially after his public disagreements with Edison and Morgan. Tesla also discussed concepts that later appeared in quantum physics: atoms behaving like miniature solar systems, and light acting as both wave and particle, yet he is rarely credited in standard histories of the field. Some historians argue that his openness to extraterrestrial communication contributed to his marginalization. At the Nikola Tesla Museum in Belgrade, which holds more than 160,000 of his documents, researchers have examined designs for flying machines that appear to rely on field propulsion or anti-gravity. Tesla spoke of craft powered entirely by electricity, without wings or conventional fuel, drawing energy from systems similar to his planned transmission towers. Ancient Indian texts such as the Vedas and the Mahabharata described flying vehicles called vimanas capable of sudden changes in direction, a performance that some modern readers interpret as anti-gravity technology. Researchers who connect ancient accounts with contemporary reports of unidentified craft see possible parallels. In February 2014, at the Singapore Air Show, the Israeli company Rafael Advanced Defense Systems presented Iron Beam, a high-energy laser system designed to destroy incoming aircraft, drones, or missiles with a focused pulse of energy. The concept closely resembles the death ray ideas Tesla discussed in the 1920s and 1930s. While the United States pursued nuclear weapons, some later military programs have returned to directed energy approaches for more precise defense. Tesla once remarked that the present belonged to others, but the future for which he worked belonged to him. Whether he somehow anticipated later developments, or whether his ideas simply waited for the right technological moment, remains open to interpretation. Some observers go further and suggest Tesla may have been an unusually receptive mind placed at a critical moment in history, someone able to receive and translate advanced concepts into practical inventions. Whether those concepts originated in human insight, in a wider field of knowledge, or in contact with non-human intelligence is still debated. What is clear is that many of the technologies he pursued, wireless power, advanced propulsion, directed energy, remain relevant more than a century later. If his full vision had been realized, the modern world might look very different. Abundant energy without the current infrastructure, vehicles free of conventional fuel, and perhaps a more rapid expansion of human capability. That version of the future has not yet arrived.